Welcome into this Monday morning edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, JP Acosta, coming at you guys live from our brand new YouTube channel, youtube.com/pushingthepile. If you haven't checked it out, go check that out. But we're going to be going through the Week 7 slate Monday morning here. Let's get right into it, JP. Let's start with Sunday Night Football. Falcons at 49ers. I remember we said on the preview pod, we're like, hey, I know we just spent all 10 minutes of this preview basically gassing up the Falcons, but if the 49ers win, we will give them their due. And well, lo and behold, the 49ers went out and just shut down this Falcons offense. My number from this game, it's 8. That was the longest run the 49ers allowed all game long. We talked about Bijan Robinson, hyped him up. Is he in, MVP, Opoi candidate after what he did last week? Well, they basically shut it down with this no-name defense. Robert Saleh's out there with guys like Darrell Luter, Tatum Bethune, Sam Okio. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name right now. Chase Lucas. Like they have a lot of guys who were not expected to play big roles on this defense and still shut down this Falcons offense.
I actually thought it was really impressive and a very impressive game by the 49ers second level and third level of their defense. So, the Falcons run a lot of outside zone. They try and reach the edges of the defense. Bijan can cut it back. Algier can just hit the hole hard. But they were so fast to the football. I said it during the game. The 49ers defense is going to make a lot of mistakes right now because they are young. But when you are fast and when you are angry, that's going to cover up for a lot of mistakes because you make mistakes 100% instead of making mistakes 50%. So I think the 49ers it feels like a 49ers team just without some of the instincts and coverage that you're obviously missing via Fred Warner and some of the pass rush that you really were missing when it comes to Nick Bosa. But even then, you had a great game from Bryce Huff, who kind of just beat Elijah Wilkinson like a drum for most of the game. And I think you're just getting a lot of good play from your second level. I think D. Winters had a really good day in space tackling. Tatum Bethune had some really nice plays. Curtis Robinson came in for Bethune at some point because Bethune got hurt. And then he had some nice plays as well. Malik Mustafa was pure chaos every time the ball was run. He came down like a bullet. I think they had such a good game plan for how to slow down this run game, and it really sort of forced the Falcons to play on their back foot.
I love Malik Mustafa, one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch on tape, just because of the way he plays. I've said he's like, that's the kind of safety you want in today's NFL, the guy who can be playing from depth but still make a tackle at or behind the line of scrimmage because that's how he's going to fill. So having him back now, huge for this defense because it is going to be a team effort. Bryce Huff obviously beats Elijah Wilkinson up in this game, and that was a mismatch. And that trade looks like a huge win for the 49ers, reuniting him with Robert Saleh. Only cost him a 5th, might end up being a 4th given how well he's playing, but really a very inexpensive trade for a guy who is now far and away their best pass rusher. But they don't have playmakers now. The playmakers are gone. They don't have a guy who's going to flip a game the way Nick Bosa, Fred Warner could. So it is going to have to be a team effort, and that was elite team defense. As it stands right now, obviously, almost at the midway point of the season, Kyle Shanahan has to be your coach of the year, given the fact that they've had a completely depleted roster and keep winning games, 5-2 now, atop the NFC West. But Robert Saleh has to be like your bounce-back head coaching candidate, given where he left has gone since, where the 49ers defense has gone with how well they've played without all their stars and how the Jets look right now. It's like, I think a lot of people are appreciating Robert Saleh kind of like how Mike Vrabel, after he left the Titans, a lot of people are appreciating Mike Vrabel a lot more a year out. I think a lot of people are appreciating Robert Saleh a lot more now, a handful of games out.
It feels like Robert Saleh should win the comeback coach of the year. How they have comeback player of the year. If they had comeback coach of the year, Robert Saleh would be winning that right now. The fact that he has this team playing at such a high level defensively, and that's without Warner, without Bosa. I think the fact they were able to game plan for a Falcons offense that, while they do have their warts, is capable of putting up 30, 40 points on anybody and just took the Bills last week to the woodshed. The fact they're able to do this without their star players, I think it's a really impressive showing of how teaching and development can look different for a lot of different teams, because this team is really young defensively and they made it look like it didn't matter against Atlanta.
Yeah, and on the flip side of the ball, having George Kittle back, the running game was massive in this one. They went Christian McCaffrey, 129 yards on 24 carries, 2 touchdowns, and it was a lot of just grinding. There weren't a lot of big plays on their side, but they were just down in, down out, far more effective than that Falcons rushing attack. And everyone knows when Mac Jones is a quarterback, it's like you're not going to get explosive plays in the pass game, really. You have a limited area of the football field. You can kind of condense everything because you're not really getting attack deep, especially without Ricky Pearsall, like one of your best deep threats on that 49ers team. So to still be able to run the football when everyone that you're facing is going to sell out against it, you just got to tip the cap. I mean, what the 49ers are doing, cobbling this together, has been wildly impressive.
This felt like a new age Kyle Shanahan game where, when we think of Kyle Shanahan, we think of outside zone, wide zone. Mm-hmm. They didn't do any of that.
Yeah,
that wasn't their successful run. Yeah, that wasn't their successful run game against Atlanta. Their successful run game came from gap and man schemes and getting upfield quickly. And I thought that was really impressive. I thought Atlanta really missed Divine Diablo, went out early. J.D. Bertrand was just not the same level of athlete in space, or just didn't really have the feel of Diablo as a tackler. According to Next Gen Stats, Christian McCaffrey had 109 yards on 15 runs between the tackles. That's his most as a member of the 49ers in a single game in his career. The fact that they're able to do that, I think, speaks a lot to what George Kittle can do as a blocker. He only had 1 target, didn't have a catch. It didn't matter. He was one of the best players on the field because he's able to dig out defensive ends. He's able to go and block those heavier guys that Atlanta plays on the edge, and it makes for the gap scheme stuff to work so much better. You're able to get guys downfield. You're able to get guys washed out of the run game, and I think that they're able to do that. They're able to have McCaffrey be explosive as a receiver. There's a drive. I think it was the second McCaffrey touchdown. Where they pull him into the end zone, and then 2 plays later they're like, hey, that probably shouldn't have happened. It was 3rd and 10, and they run Christian McCaffrey on basically a seam route out of the backfield, and Mac Jones doesn't hesitate and throws the ball to McCaffrey for a first down. They're getting it to him in the passing game downfield. They're using him as a gap scheme guy. This is, I don't know how long Christian McCaffrey's body is going to hold up doing this, but that doesn't matter right now. It's really fun, and I'm appreciating the greatness of Christian McCaffrey while we still have him at full power.
Yeah, he had 19 more touches than anyone else in the NFL going into this game, and we just threw just a cool 31 more touches at Christian McCaffrey. No way he's going to break down at any point this season. Just he's too good. You did definitely see though the difference in the evolution of Kyle Shanahan's offense and the running games in particular versus Zach Robinson, where they don't really stray too far from God's light, which is the outside zone stretch game. You see how multiple the 49ers can be in their running game, and how much there's a reason why McVay came up as a stretch zone heavy guy, and they've gone away for a lot. It's just hard to hang your hat on that solely in today's NFL. You just have to be a little bit more unpredictable. And I think you really saw the big difference in that in this one. Michael Penix Jr., though, just touch on him before we get out of here. Another just ho-hum game from him. Leaves a handful of plays on the field, the ugly sack fumble, the ugly intentional grounding call. It feels like he's gone in the tank just a little bit more and more often than I thought he would this season.
So I have this theory about the Falcons offense, and I had this thought watching the Falcons offense yesterday. The Atlanta Falcons are the streakiest 3-point shooter in the NFL, because the way that they run their offense, the way that Michael Penix Jr. plays quarterback, you traded out the efficiency of the middle of the field game with Kirk Cousins to be more explosive on the edges of the field, which is fine. But you aren't going to have the efficiency and the easy buttons over the middle of the field that you normally would have with most McVay, most outside zone teams. When you run outside zone and a hard play action off of it, you want to throw the ball over the middle because those are the guys who are effective, especially the 49ers, who have two guys who really haven't played a lot of football at linebacker. The problem is Michael Penix Jr. really isn't comfortable throwing over the middle of the field yet, and we're 9 games in, so things can change, but they're still trying to figure out if that's where he best wins and if that's going to mesh with what Zach Robinson does as a McVay. Like, he is they run the purest form of the old McVay offense, and will that work with Michael Penix Jr.? I don't know, but they're a streaky shooter offense because they're capable of putting up 34 because of all the explosives that they can generate. But if it's not working, this is what happens. If they don't hit the 3-pointers, they're going to go like 9 for 20. I said they're like Michael Porter Jr., like where you'll get like explosions of like 30 points when the shots are falling. But if the shots aren't falling, then you get games like this where they kind of turtle in. And I think the pressure really affected them in this game more than previous games. I think Wilkerson, like I said, was awful. Like you really are hoping Storm Norton can get back so he can play right tackle for you. But I do think there was a lot of.
It's also not the position you want to be in, saying we're hoping Storm Norton.
Yeah, you're praying for Storm Norton to get back. It's not a way you want to live. But I do think that Michael Penix Jr. struggled with pressure around his feet, and I think that's a difference between like just getting pressure and then Penix getting pressure around his lower body, because he also isn't like super nimble. So all the pressure around his feet were leading to wild, inaccurate throws. It's not the fact that they just hit him relentlessly. It's where he was getting hit. It's where all the bodies were stacking up. So he's not able to maneuver around that. And then I just think they don't really have answers for blitzes, because most of your blitz answers come from the middle of the field. And you don't really have those answers with an offensive coordinator and a quarterback who feel like everything is so like outside the numbers.
Yes. He's a corner 3 specialist, and they're asking him to hit mid-range jumpers a little, and he's just turning them down. He's just like not attempting them. There's open plays over the middle of the football field, and he's just not even trying. That's just not where he wants to go. And I like your point though about his skittishness. I mean, when you've torn your ACL multiple times, when you have his injury history, you could see why a guy would be skittish. And it was kind of like the same thing I said about Tyler Shuck coming out of Louisville. It's like the guy has been injured so much. I think he's just skittish at this point. You see not an inability. Obviously, he can step into throws under pressure, but an unwillingness to really just stand in there and take a shot. Like he is fading away. He's falling off a lot of throws that you'd like him to drive through. And he doesn't make necessarily bad decisions under pressure. It doesn't lead to that. It just leads to inaccuracy and eyes dropping more than you would like for a quarterback like him to have.
Another real quick thing about the Falcons offense, their best guy to beat man coverage is Kyle Pitts. And I think
he's the biggest mismatch.
Yeah, he's their biggest mismatch. But the fact that they don't have speed really is sort of hampering the explosiveness of the offense. You don't really have that downfield element because Drake London is more of your in-between. He's honestly more of a power.
He's more your tight end.
He's more the tight end than Kyle Pitts. But there was a 4th and 1 in this game where it's the incompletion to Drake London where I forgot who it was, but Chase Lucas. It was Chase Lucas.
Yes,
he jumps the route. But on that play, you take out Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, 2 of your best like answers against man coverage, and you put on Algier and Charlie Warner to just go straight drop back. Like it's not even like you were trying to run fake it. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder, like, what's the why? why is that the move? If you're gonna go straight drop back, put both those guys in. And if you want to do like play action, you can really sell it with Algier and Warner in the game. So there's a lot of stuff. I won't say there's a lot of stuff wrong, but there's some real like inconsistency, some warts popping up for the Falcons offense that they're going to get a lot of time to answer.
Yes, they will. Falcons dropped to 3-3, and the 49ers, well, they're 5-2 atop the West. All right, that's it for that game. We're going to take a quick break after that. Going to get the rest of the Week 7 slate.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars. What a difference she has made.
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it? The crowd here feels electric.
Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
Giants at Broncos. Broncos don't cover 7-point favorites, but they somehow sneak out a 33-32 win. I say somehow because this game was 19-0 heading into the fourth quarter. The Broncos' 33 points in the fourth quarter were the most by a team who had not scored going into the fourth quarter. It was truly an insane game. 46 points scored total in the fourth quarter. That was my number for this one. That was the most in any fourth quarter of the season. Second most was actually when the Giants played the Cowboys, when they scored 41. So the Giants have a history of fourth quarter debacles. They've actually allowed 95 points in the fourth quarter of the season. Far and away the most in the NFL. It's like 14 points per fourth quarter. I don't know what to say. There's so much to talk about in this one, but I just thought that it was absolutely hilarious. The difference, it felt like Jackson Dart played 3 good quarters and then a disastrous fourth quarter, whereas Bo Nix played 3 terrible quarters and then pretty much a lights out fourth quarter. So his first 3 quarters, Bo Nix was 11-25 for 105 yards. Fourth quarter, he goes 16-25, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 46 more yards on the ground, and 2 more touchdowns. And the game basically decided by a missed extra point and then a made field goal on the other side for the Denver Broncos.
This felt like watching a year's worth of football in one quarter. Like that's the best way I can describe it. It felt like watching the entire year of the Broncos and the entire year of the Giants happen in one quarter. I think Jackson Dart and the Giants are a very funny offense because they rely so much on the chaos. They rely so much on like go make something happen. And you can tell when you look at his stats and you look at Dart's play, like he was 15 of 33, but on those 15 completions, he had 283 yards. So I actually thought they did some really cool stuff with like max protection, getting bigger. I think the Bellinger touchdown was really nice, and it was a really nice design to get Alex Singleton in coverage. And Daniel Bellinger was wide open. And then I think his other touchdown was pretty wide open too, but his best throw was the one to Bellinger in the short pylon. I think in like second or third quarter that was ended up in a drop. That was his best throw. But you could tell that I sort of still feel like they need more in like the drop back passing game, which is fine. It's fine right now because where Jackson Dart is as a quarterback is you can't really blitz him because he's so chaotic in a good way. It is a good chaos because he can scramble around and he's going to make something happen. But if you don't blitz him, you ask him to read out those coverages. That's something that he really can't do right now. So that's fine because I think Bo Nix on the other side, at one point, Bo Nix had 42 passing attempts for under 200 yards, which is just the stinkiest way to run an offense. It is just like god awful. You're throwing the ball and it's not going anywhere. But I do think some of the issues with the Broncos really sort of pop up when you can't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball on the Giants defense. This is the second week in a row they haven't been able to run the ball. And you can tell that the way they want to run their offense optimistically is through the run game. And then you just have some real nice designer stuff that Sean Payton likes to run. But then the fourth quarter, they realized, like, look, man, this isn't going to work. We need to make a comeback. So they just let Bo Nix kind of just play a little bit and open up the passing game. I thought the pin pull touchdown that Bo Nix scored on was really nice. I thought that was awesome. But it felt like the fourth quarter was both these quarterbacks like trying to like out bozo the other one, because the last 2 drives of this game, none of it made sense.
The Dart ending, I have the plays written down. The end of his game was an incredible sequence. So he threw the pick, which was like, I audibly screamed. It's just, you can't throw a pick in that. They were up by 10 points. You objectively, I think there's just over, there's like 4 minutes left in that. You just can't throw a pick. Throws a pick. And then the next one, they have a chance to ice the game. If they can convert a third down, Broncos were out of timeouts. You get down to just above the 2-minute warning. You would have given the ball back at worst with like 30 seconds. Wan'Dale Robinson open, bad overthrow in that one. Then to start the last drive, so they have to punt it away. Last drive starts with a sack, then a bad overthrow to Jalen Hyatt, and then basically a throw that two guys could have picked. And that was like the problem for the Broncos on multiple occasions, that they ran into each other and both dropped it. And then the fourth down conversion, which was an awesome play to Wan'Dale Robinson, that he gets popped, you get an extra 15. And then the next throw, he tries to throw another pick. Two guys collide again for the Broncos, then a sideline incompletion, then the controversial pass interference, which controversial, it was just a terrible call.
It's an awful call.
Sucks that we had, at least it didn't decide the game, because obviously the Broncos still win. It was as bad as the Travis Hunter, if not worse, as the Travis Hunter and the Cincinnati Bengals one that ended up screwing them. Awful call. That's why Sean Payton got a penalty afterwards. Then he has the go-ahead touchdown, and then that was it. Then they lost.
He tried to throw like 3 interceptions on that game, on that last drive. The Surtain one was probably the funniest one, because there's 3 guys there. And after that one, I kind of said, like, hey, man, you don't need to go get the home run on the first play. And you could tell that he was looking to answer right back with a touchdown. He was looking to go get that score right back. And I think it was the first play. Like, they had drawn up something like, I think it was the Wan'Dale Robinson overthrow, where it's like, dude, you can just you can matriculate this ball downfield. You don't have to try and go flip the scoreboard with every single throw. But that pass interference call was awful. Like, objectively, I do think it was worse than the Travis Hunter one, because Riley Moss is in perfect coverage. He turned his head. The biggest thing that people say on those DPI calls that are kind of like BS calls is like, well, he should have turned his head. He did. He did everything that you want him to do and was still punished for it. And it felt like in the moment that was going to be the biggest like long-term play of ball don't lie. After they scored, it was like, oh, this is, and they missed the extra point. It was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a ball don't lie moment. This is going to be an incredibly long-term ball don't lie. And then Bo Nix gets the ball and tries to throw it at Cortland. He was throwing the ball to Cortland Sutton.
100%.
He was
that made two different big completions, because we didn't even talk about the crazy Theo Johnson touchdown. A 41-yard touchdown that bounces off of Wan'Dale Robinson's chest into Theo Johnson for a 41-yard score in the fourth quarter. And then he was trying to throw the dig. He was 100% trying to throw the dig to Cortland Sutton. And it ends up in Marvin Mims' hands.
And even on, I think, one of the drives before the Theo Johnson touchdown, Troy Franklin catches a touchdown that happens the exact same way as the Theo. Nothing made sense in this game. This was the most like, we're just throwing random outcomes into the generator and seeing what happens. Like Troy Franklin double catch touchdown, sure. Bo Nix going to try and throw the ball to Cortland Sutton, ends up in Marvin Mims' hands, sure. But I do think the biggest show of confidence and one of the best throws Bo Nix made was the back shoulder to the fade to Cortland Sutton, which has been kind of their go-to in big moments. It is Cortland Sutton, go up and get the ball. And he has been so good in those moments. He has been like their big play. He has been their, like, he's not an explosive receiver, but he is so good in that 10 to 15 yard range. Where he's living on the sideline, basically. He turns those 50-50 catches into 60-40 for his side, and he just goes and makes plays, which I think is needed for a Broncos offense that doesn't really have playmakers right now.
Yeah, when you watch him, you could tell. In this one also, like Troy Franklin had a couple of big plays that a better receiver makes. I thought Marvin Mims had one as well, where it's like if he had a dude opposite, if it was Cortland Sutton that he was throwing to in those situations, that ball probably is hauled in. But there was a second after Sutton got up from that where I'm like, oh, Sutton thought he went out of bounds. Where I'm like, oh, I think he's just gonna and if he would have waited or like spiked the ball or like made a first down marker or anything, they may not have gotten that spike off in time because it happened with 2 seconds left. But Thank God you didn't. I want to end with this, though, with Jackson Dart, just because there is a lot to like. And it feels like to me when I watch him, you know how there's like a theory of like childhood development about how you're supposed to like let kids, bounce into walls. Like you're not supposed to stop them when they're roughhousing, because it's when they get hurt, or like not when they get hurt, but like when they like play a little too rough and then get like a sore. That's when they learn. It's like, okay, I went too far. I can't do that. That feels like every Jackson Dart's like he's bouncing off of walls. He's doing like everything, he's making all the mistakes that maybe you can't make, just because like he's got to learn. He's like speed running, learning how to play quarterback in the NFL. But you can't argue with the results right now. Like he is, for each dumb decision, each crazy play where it's like, what was that? You have another 1 to 2 where it's like, that was different. That was unique. That was a play that the high-end guys at the NFL make. So I think if you're a Giants fan right now, you at least just got to be thanking God that you're not watching Russell Wilson play anymore. You're at least happy as hell that you're not suffering through whatever the heck that was when Russ was out there.
It won't be boring with Jackson Dart. It will never be boring. That's the thing. If you want to like trade efficiency, like I think Jackson Dart obviously has been more efficient, but it will not be boring with Dart in at quarterback. And I think that sort of just creates some fun moments.
All right. Whew. That was fun. Let's get to the Colts at Chargers. Decidedly not as fun because the Colts just raced out and stayed away. They win 38-24 on the road. 48.5 points was the over-under there. They were dogs, and they just blew them out the water. What was your number from this game, JP?
My number was 55%. That is the success rate on the ground for the Colts in this game. They had a 52.5% success rate at just overall in this game against the Chargers. This is also, according to Next Gen Stats and True Media, it is the 4th time that the Colts have had a success rate of over 50% in a game, and they have 4 of the top 15 performances this season in success rate. Like they're just a buzzsaw. Like I was really worried about the sustainability of this Colts offense when they played teams like the Chargers, who had very good defenses, because can they overcome like some of the Daniel Jones mishaps? You don't have to overcome the Daniel Jones mishaps if they just never happen. If you just beat teams to death on the ground the entire game. And it felt like Shane Steichen and the Colts found so many opportunities for Jonathan Taylor on the ground. I say this like I'm trying. I don't want to be like mean or say like their players are not good, because I don't mean that at all. I think they have very good players, but the Colts offense executes at such a high level. It makes up for the fact that we've said going into the season, like there's like Jonathan Taylor and a bunch of like B+ guys on the roster. Like they have cool like specialists in their role, but they're all executing at such a high level. And Shane Steichen, we talked about Kyle Shanahan, coach of the year. I think Shane Steichen is the coach of the year right now for just getting this offense not only to be good, but to be best in the league good. I mean, they are able to, on Jonathan Taylor's 3rd touchdown run, it was so cool. They had him line up as a receiver and they bring him in jet motion. But then they also have Tyler Warren coming in behind him on like a shovel option. And that just completely throws the Chargers off because they're like, oh, Tyler Warren's getting the ball here. And Jonathan Taylor just basically goes in untouched for a touchdown. And it's Shane Steichen finding ways to use his guys while complementing everything else. There's all the motion. There's all the cool slider stuff they're doing with Daniel Jones. And then Daniel Jones just made some nice throws. He has made some really good throws. The Alec Pierce post corner was sick. He had a couple throws in the 2-minute drive that were really impressive, but he keeps them on schedule. And I think that's the biggest thing this Colts offense really needed.
You know what this offense reminds me of, and it's not necessarily schematically, but just in terms of construction. They feel like the Lions, where because they have so many options, because, hey, if you forget about Alec Pierce, all of a sudden he's going to go over the top on you. It's kind of like he's kind of like their Jameson Williams. And then you have a Tyler Warren who, hey, if you forget about Tyler Warren, he's going to leak out on a play action pass and it's going to be a big play. They didn't have Josh Downs in this one, but like obviously he's you're elite. We see man coverage. We know this guy's getting open guy. And then Michael Pittman's kind of just another possession receiver thrown in the mix. But then you have the elite backfield of Jonathan Taylor, and Daniel Jones is playing inspired football too. It's like he is making some, he's never been known for impressive throws, but he's making some throws down the field this year where it's like the guy's actually playing some damn good football. So you put it all together, and because there's no holes, because there's no liability, because there's no one that you kind of got to scheme to avoid and you can't put in XYZ position, it gives you so much to think about as a DC. And obviously Shane Steichen's just dialing it up right now with these guys.
He is so locked in with what all of his players do well and maximizing it to the fullest degree, using formation, using shifts. They motion Tyler Warren into the backfield as like a fullback, and you can basically have the effectiveness of like a Kyle Juszczyk in your backfield while also having a true legit tight end like threat on the field, and it makes them so much more dynamic. But I do have to shout out this offensive line, who is playing like arguably the best unit in football right now. We had questions about some of the young guys who were stepping up in place of Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, but Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonsalves have played inspired football this year, and Quentin Nelson he is playing the position better than anybody else right now at left guard. He is playing left guard better than anybody else in the sport. Some of the backside cutoffs he made in this game were super impressive and helped spring a lot of Jonathan Taylor runs. And I think that was the biggest thing that the Chargers really missed. The best thing you can do against this Chargers defense is run the ball on them in light boxes, and they kind of just got hammered.
So now the Colts, they're 6-1. Top the AFC. Are they the best team in the AFC?
No, because the Chiefs are just they are still the Chiefs.
Good Lord. We'll get to that one.
We're going to get to that one.
Lord.
But the Colts have a really good, it's not like the margin is super wide. And I do have questions about some of the sustainability of their defense, but they're led by a veteran defensive coordinator who's throwing a lot at quarterback schematically to make up for the fact that they don't have anybody healthy in the secondary. Now, I wonder how long that's going to last against some of the veteran quarterbacks that you'll see later on this season, because even I think Justin Herbert, despite throwing one of the interceptions was bad, he was just off. The other one was a tip drill where Grover Stewart catches the tip ball like a punt, but they were finding holes in this defense. They're finding holes in the secondary, but they just, when you get out to a lead like they did, it sort of just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think I trust KC's defense just a touch more than Indy's, but man, hard to argue against what the Colts are doing when you can put on a team that's, we've talked about the Chargers. I think I just put them in the good but flawed tier of last week. And it's like they're a good football team, though, too. To dominate a good football team in the NFL, it ain't easy, especially on the road. So hats off to the Colts. I don't know. We'll see. Well, I think this is for real, though. I don't think there's come back down to earth moment. I think this is at worst one of the three best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, and they're probably gonna get to the bye at 9-1 before they have, after the bye they play Kansas City, they play Seattle, they have both Houston games and both Jacksonville games. So getting out to this lead right now in the AFC, you're pretty much guaranteed for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think they win the South. All right, let's get to the Packers at Cardinals. Packers sneak by with the 27-23 victory. They don't cover the 6.5 point spread. The over does hit there. My number, though, it's really the only number that gives me any encouragement from this game. It's 10. That was the amount of pressure from Micah Parsons, including 3 sacks. Basically, this is why you trade for Micah Parsons, because they were not winning this game if they did not have Micah Parsons.
There was a drive late in the game where I think it was one of the field goal drives where second down, Micah Parsons just absolutely crushes Jonah Williams and forces Jacoby Brissett off his spot incompletion. third down. He goes around Jonah Williams and gets a sack, and they have to kick a field goal. And I was like, okay, Micah Parsons just decided that drive is over. And it came at such an important time because Brissett was making some throws at that point. But like you said, this is why you trade for Micah Parsons. It's for these moments. It's for these games where nothing really is working the way it's supposed to, and you need somebody to take over. I think that's something that the Packers missed last year, was somebody with that like takeover aspect of their game defensively. They had a bunch of good players, but they didn't have somebody who could, like, when things are going bad, he has to go win the game for them. Micah Parsons went out and won that game. He was dominant. Like nobody was blocking him at any point in that game.
Yeah, that was him. Quay Walker also had a great game. Carl Brooks, I thought, had a great game. But this Packers back end continues to be worrisome. I mean, Jacoby Brissett goes for 279 again. He kind of carved them up when he had time. It was worrisome for this Packers defense. Obviously, great to sneak away with a win, but it seems like after those first two wins from Detroit, Washington, you basically, if you would took those out and you just observed who this team has been since then, you'd be like, this is an average football team. You know, this is like they'd be lucky to make the playoffs sort of football team. I don't know when we're going to see or if we'll ever see that version. Do you think we will at any other point this season that we saw weeks 1 and 2?
I think the Packers play down to their opponents. I think they treat like the lesser opponents as like, oh, we're just going to sleepwalk through this game. But they don't necessarily like, and I think part of that falls on coaching. Like they don't really get up for the small games. But if it's a big game, if it is the Commanders on Thursday Night Football, if it is the Lions in the first game of the season, like they're going to get up for the big ones. It's just every game in between that you don't deem important is going to come back to haunt you. And I think a large part of that is, like, I still have a little bit of questions about some of the sustainability if they can't run the ball very well. Like, I do want to see if they can continue to be effective. Josh Jacobs has been good in the red zone. I want to see if they can just continue to get some like down-to-down efficiency, because that's where they're sort of losing it right now. But I do think Jordan Love's playing well. I think the mind meld with he and Tucker Kraft has gone really well. It's just some of the efficiency is gone, but some of the explosives are like still there. So you're still going to get points, but it's just sometimes they're going to go through lulls.
I think they need Jaden Reed back. I think because Dontavion Wicks not really getting featured the past few weeks. Obviously, if they get him and Christian Watson back as the season wears on, I think you'll see a lot of that consistency aspect to the offense come back. But their running games just, I still feel like they run the ball too. Like they continually run the football, even when it's kind of just middling. It feels like, I understand why they do it, but they're still so run heavy on early downs, even when Jordan Love is having even when they're carving teams up in the passing game, it seems like. So we'll see. I can't complain about a win, though, if you're Green Bay right now, given how things have gone. All right.
And with the way that the NFC is kind of shaken out, they could be close to the 1 seed by the time.
I mean, they're basically controlling their destiny here at this point.
Yeah. So they got some stuff to iron out, but I do think that this team, like you said, I do wonder if they still run the ball early downs, even if Jordan Love is playing really well. But they're right there. Like, they are still like on the cusp of like, they're like maybe a couple games away from really hitting that second gear as a team. But this game was the Micah Parsons like takeover.
Okay. Two quick questions, and then we'll get out. It's October 20th. You have to say week 1, 2026, and their next game after the bye, Monday, November 3rd against the Cowboys. Who is the starting quarterback for the Cardinals in each? Or is Kyler starting for the Cardinals in each is a better question.
If 2026, Kyler's not a starting quarterback. I don't think he's a starting quarterback going into next year. I do think he starts after the bye week.
Okay.
Mainly because it would be a little tough to go to Jacoby Brissett even though you've lost both games. Like if they had beaten the Packers or if they had beaten the Colts, even though Brissett played well, if they had won, then I think, this would be a much different conversation. But the fact they lost, I do think Kyler's going to get that job back for now. But I will say everybody looks better with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, which is
Right.
like I hate to be like the stat guy, but Trey McBride has more touchdowns with Jacoby Brissett than Kyler Murray. Marvin Harrison Jr. looks great with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. You're getting some nice plays from Michael Wilson. It's just everything runs better in terms of like down to down efficiency. And if you're not getting the Kyler Murray volatility plays, I don't know how long this thing can keep going.
Let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles at Minnesota Vikings. Eagles win 28-22. They cover as 2.5-point favorites. 43.5 points the over-under there. Over hits. A lot of overs this week. My number, 0.7. That was Jalen Hurts' EPA per dropback in this game. Far and away his best this season. We said the Vikings came in one of the best pass defenses. I believe they were the best pass defense in terms of EPA per play going in. One of the worst run defenses. Well, the Eagles still can't run the football for shit. 44 yards on 18 carries. But Jalen Hurts has an A-plus game from him. It was funny on Thursday night. Aaron Rodgers had a throw early on that game, and then he had the Hail Mary at the end. Where I texted you, I was like, I think he still got a plus arm. But then Jalen Hurts has the deep ball to Devontae Smith that went like 57 yards. And obviously, like that's not massive, but I felt a little bad for putting him in the pop gun category. That was a beautiful deep ball that I don't think Tua or Purdy are striking that one.
This is the type of game that the Eagles can get from their passing offense if they know that they just can't be guarded on the outside. Like this is the type of game we saw from them against the Rams that helped them come back. It's, you don't have anybody to defend both guys. You don't have anybody to defend both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And I think the biggest thing that the Vikings did in this game that I really sort of question, the thing with Jalen Hurts is, can you get pressure without blitzing? Because the blitz answers always have been just throw it up to A.J. and Devontae Smith.
Yeah, or just outlast it. It's a lot of their blitz answers. They just outlast it, and then someone uncovers.
Yeah, or just you're running into the great wall with the Philadelphia offensive line. The Vikings blitzed a lot, but played man behind it, and I'm kind of just like, I don't know if you want to live like Isaiah Rodgers has been fine. I don't think you want to live with Isaiah Rodgers in man scenarios against A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. There was a big, I think the second A.J. Brown touchdown where it was like, I don't know if it was third or fourth down, but he's running a sluggo, and the Vikings bring a blitz, leaving Isaiah Rodgers on an island, and he just gets toasted. He gets toasted for a touchdown. The 79-yard touchdown to Devontae Smith, he completely turns Isaiah Rodgers around on that post route. And it's one of those games. This was one of those games where you really see like, these guys are awesome when you can get them the ball. But I do think they're still lacking that down-to-down efficiency of the run game. This was the bailout game. This was like, I forgot that we have two of the best receivers on the planet. So I'm glad that they're able to find this, but I do have a lot more questions about just the sustainability of the Vikings, especially if their defense isn't going to be able to hold up.
Yeah. The difference in EPA per carry this year versus last year, if you were to supplant how many carries Saquon's had this year with his EPA per carry from a year ago, it would be 27-point differential from this season. 4 points a game they're losing basically from a year ago in their running game. That is a massive difference. We've made excuses, right? We've said why, but at the end of the day, it falls like Kevin Petula because you're still so good. Like you're still so absurdly talented that there's no amount of excuses that can explain away this. Like we can make excuse for why you're not a 2,000 yard, one of the best rushing attacks of all time, right? Like that, we can say why they've made a step back from that. But this is legitimately, we are a bad rushing offense territory. In no world should this be a bad rushing offense with the talent that they have. You got to find different answers, and they continue to unimpress me with the answers that they're going out and searching for.
Again, I feel like their answer to solving their run game is the answer that nobody wants to really have, because you don't want to risk him getting hurt. You have to run the ball with Jalen Hurts more.
Yeah.
You have to do design run with him. Again, what's the point of having Jalen Hurts if you're not going to run with him? Like that, what are we doing here? It feels like we're like taking the Lamborghini out the garage and only going 20 miles an hour because you're so worried about getting into a wreck. You have to get him.
But you're revving that engine at every red light. You're just you're hearing the
you're
thunder.
Hearing it. Like you're like, oh, it's got the engine. It can. I wonder how fast this thing can go. And as you go 25, because you're scared of an accident. So they need to get Jalen Hurts involved in the run game. But I do think this was a good game for them to find answers as a passing offense, even without the run game working. So according to E.J. Smith of Philly Sports, the Eagles have used play action on 5 passes going into this game. They had 4 play action passing attempts against the Vikings just on Sunday, and Jalen Hurts went 4 for 4 for 121 yards and a touchdown. Like that, like you can do that. You can still do play action without the run game necessarily being great, and I think that's because you still have 2 of the best receivers in football. You can still do this stuff. So I want to see them continue to lean into those answers while they still find like what works on the ground.
Yeah, I struggle to say that this is a light bulb switch sort of moment, though. Watching it back, it just felt like it was just A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith being better than the Vikings corners, being so much better than the Vikings corners is what it felt like. I mean, they combined for over 300 yards between those 2 alone. They were your passing game. And it was just, like you said, man scenarios that it was like the first touchdown, it was Josh Metellus on A.J. Brown. That's not going to end well if it's like if Jalen Hurts had like 5 seconds the way he did. And that's what it felt like. It's like the big plays more often than not where Jalen Hurts had 4 seconds and you were playing man coverage. It ain't going to end well when it's Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So I struggle to say that this is Kevin Petula figured it out. The passing offense is back. It was just like, oh no, they held up super well in pass pro against the Vikings blitzes. And they just are, this God tier talented team at wide receiver that if you're going to play man coverage against, you better get home with your pass rush. And the Vikings did not. Let's get to the Saints at Bears. Bears roll going away 26-14. The cover's 5.5 point favorites. Under hits there 46.5. What was your number from this one?
My number is 124. That is the rushing yards DeAndre Swift had in this game. I'm sort of impressed with the Bears run game right now. Like, it's actually really cool. And I think the biggest thing that changed for their run game is Ben Johnson leaning into what this offense does well. And that's the sign of the great offensive coordinators. You can try and run your offense and like square peg round hole, or you can just run what the guys are good at. DeAndre Swift does not have the vision of David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs. But when he puts his foot in the ground and you tell him, hey, follow him, follow that guy, and just don't try and choose or try and jump cut into a different gap, he's really good at getting downfield quickly. He's really good at getting downhill. And against the Saints, 102 of his 124 runs came outside the tackles, where it fits his running style of all the toss stuff they do, all like, I wouldn't even say like it was outside zone. It was just toss. It was sweep, where you're getting him the ball outside the tackles and he's going. He's hitting that gap hard. And I also think that fits Kyle Monangai a little bit. So I appreciate that Ben Johnson is just finding ways to be efficient while still running the offense that the Lions looked like, but with a team in the Bears that just doesn't have the between the tackles efficiency of what you want. You can still do the Lions like run game stuff, but just play sort of outside zone, make it more like toss where you're really getting guys downhill. And, you just have some of the volatility of Caleb Williams. I think the Caleb Williams discussions that I sometimes see on Bears Twitter is very, very odd, very funny, because it's like, oh, Caleb is turning down throws. It's like, not really. He's just missing them. Like, it's at this point, like he's just missing them. Like, he sees it and he's throwing it. He just misses sometimes. Like that, the accuracy needs to be cleaned up. But I say this as a compliment and sort of like, okay, this might be some of his limits. He's a little Kyler-ish. Like he's very Kyler-ish as a passer, because Caleb Williams is very good when he's blitzed, because he just can create so well. But when he's not blitzed and you try and go into creation mode, there was a play in this game where I think the Saints only bring 3, like in a drop 8 coverage, and he like double spins to try and avoid pressure before throwing the ball out of bounds. And I'm just like, dude, please just be normal.
He's got the coolest throwaways. He's got the coolest throwaways.
Cool. It's so cool. He just chill a little bit. Just relax. But I do think the connection between Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze is growing, which I think is what you needed this year from your QB1 and your wide receiver 1. Some of the speed outs that they hit on are really nice. Those are some of the best Caleb Williams throws, those outbreakers, the ones where he's rolling, they're moving the pocket, and he's just firing on these. But he's also maximizing the yak opportunities that those guys can get. DJ Moore had a couple really nice plays after the catch because Caleb just putting it on him and leading him so he can continue to run. So I do think that they are finding what works. I still think there's more meat on the bone as a passing offense, but I think part of that just needs to come from Caleb Williams kind of chilling out. But they're finding their way, and I think that's impressive. They are finding ways to win with this personnel, and I think that's a testament to Ben Johnson as a coordinator.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks, you have Caleb Williams playing, objectively not great, right? C to D performances from your quarterback, and you score 25 and 26 points. When you're scoring, like usually in a quarterback-driven league, usually when your quarterback's not playing well, you're scoring like, 14, 15 points. You're scoring the teens. The Bears have been able to win games and find ways to win in other ways. And for all the Bears fans that are in their feelings about Colson Loveland versus Tyler Warren, because there's a lot. One of them is on this podcast as a co-host and texts me about it all the time. Go watch Colson Loveland in this football game. He was outstanding in the running game. On, I think, every single touchdown, both of the touchdowns that they had on the ground, he had a key block. He has a key block on one of the coolest plays I saw all weekend where he's pulling outside and he's just keeping one defensive end at bay, knowing it's not his guy, but trying to keep him inside. DeAndre Swift's following him. He gets off just in time. Swift cuts behind him. It just, Colson Loveland looks like a man in the running game. He may need to be the man now because Cole Kmet had a back injury in this one. We'll see how long he's out. But out of 12 and 13 personnel in this game, they average 0.27 EPA per run, 52.4% success rate. Those are elite numbers. I expect them to lean into that, hopefully, if and when Cole Kmet's back. But like, Loveland looks up to speed in the running game. And that was always the biggest thing for me between Warren and Loveland, is that Loveland's young, man. He was 21 years old, had just turned 21 years old right before he was drafted. For most tight ends in college, it takes a while for those guys to physically develop. So there's more left from him developmentally. And I think you'll see that as career goes on. So if you're upset about it, don't get in your feelings. But you can't get in your feelings about the Kyler thing, because that's the second time we've unfortunately brought that up. I brought up Kyler's name, I think like week 3, and Bears fans were pissed. I hope that you don't get the same hate that I did, because They were not happy about me invoking Kyler Murray when I watched Caleb Williams, but it's hard not to at this point.
It's the good and the bad. You trade
Yes.
you trade some of the explosive plays that you can create with Caleb Williams with some of the warts that he'll have right now. And it's just, again, he just needs to chill out a little bit. I thought the interception that he threw was really, it was a late throw. It was a late throw to the opposite side of the field where, like, he knows he wants to go there, but he's just off. That's something that's going to be a Caleb Williams thing until he continues to grow, until his accuracy improves. But the fact that they're able to put up 26 points, like you said, speaks to how well the run game is working and the fact that they have easy buttons in this offense. The fact that you're able to hit those speed outs and get yards after the catch. The fact that you're able to get all the quick game stuff working with Caleb Williams. The fact that that is working and the floor is raised, that's the impressive thing about the Bears right now. That's something they're like, okay, this is good. This is nice. We can see that this is a thing that will continue to be happening with Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator and your head coach. But now it's like, okay, we have a floor. Let's try and raise the ceiling a little bit. And that comes to just Caleb being more accurate downfield. And I think that's just going to take a little bit more time.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, we got Rams, Jags, Commanders, Cowboys, Panthers, Jets, and, well, the rest of the Week 7 slate right after this.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, let's talk about this Rams-Jags game. We don't have to harp on it too long, though. Rams roll 35-7. This one, kind of a laugher. 44.5 points. The under actually hits there. Unfortunately, JP, we made you give the number. So what's your number for this one?
So I have a couple. One is the real number, 3 Rams touchdowns out of 13 personnel, which is the offensive adjustment Sean McVay made with Puka Nacua out. They just hammered teams. They hammered the Jaguars with 12 and 13 personnel. The other number that I chose is 1 because that's how many immortal chambers Matthew Stafford used in the offseason, and he looks like an MVP candidate. The dude is just unflappable. I don't know what you can really say. Like, according to Next Gen Stats, against the blitz on Sunday morning, Matthew Stafford went 13-19 for 97 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, that's just so hard to beat a quarterback playing at this level that he is right now. I actually think, like I said, the way that they're using 13 and 12 personnel, getting all their tight ends on the field, it's helping them stay more efficient in the run game, but you have so many more matchup nightmares in the passing game. The Terrence Ferguson touchdown was the same play that the Seahawks ran with A.J. Barner last week against Andrew Wingard, and Andrew Wingard failed to cover it last week, and so he failed to do it again this week. It was one of those games for the Jaguars offense, but the Stafford has just been at such a high level at quarterback this year. And the fact that you're getting some great play from, like I said, Kanata Mumpfield had a great game. I think you get some big plays from Devontae Adams, who was awesome, but they're finding adjustments without Puka Nacua. And because Nacua is just always open, you really don't get to see a lot of Terrence Ferguson's a really good receiver. Oh, you can get some Tyler Higbee moments. Colby Parkinson had some big plays. All their 3 tight ends had receptions of over 15 yards in this game. So they were just hitting chunk plays with 12 and 13 personnel. And I think it's a really cool addition to the Rams offense.
Yeah, I mean, Sean McVay, this one was a hats off to him game when you don't have your guy to completely reinvent what you're doing and then have like Colby Parkinson lead you in receiving was impressive. And the fact that, I mean, the Jaguars outgained them 358 to 271. To lose by 28 points when you outgain the other team by over 80 yards, but it was a classic Jags game because they did have, 119 penalty yards, which is like, that's almost like the floor for them at this point. They're gonna negate 100 yards throughout the game in some way, shape, or form. The Jags just seemingly can't get out of their own way offensively.
They cannot. I don't understand how they continue to just punch themselves in the nuts. They are always going to punch themselves in the nuts. This feels like the scenes in Tom and Jerry where Tom like steps on the rake and then turns around and steps on the rake.
Rake.
And it's just a cycle, stepping on the rake. They had so many drives that ended in Rams territory that didn't end in points that it's just become frustrating. And I think with the penalties, you are who you are as a team at some point. We can say like, oh, once they get penalties cleaned up, they'll be okay. Oh, well, once they have the penalties cleaned up, it'll really take off. At some point, you are who you are as a team. And this team lacks attention to detail and lacks sort of a feel for the game right now. I think that's the biggest Trevor Lawrence complaint.
Yep.
Is the feel for the game isn't there right now. Like the 4th and 7 run that was just like, look, man, I know I said be a little more reckless. Not that.
First thing I thought of, I was like, hey, that's not what we had in mind, Trevor.
There's zero chance you're getting all 7 of those yards. And
because he put his head down. Like you saw his decision. He was probably 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and still had like just broken the pocket. And like you saw it, you're like, oh, he's just going to go. Like everyone in the field all of a sudden knows he's just going to go. There was no changing his mind. And there's like 3 defenders out there. He's going to have to, like, they're either going to have to stick on their men, but you made it so obvious that you were running that they all just left. Like Hunter Long was wide open well before he even got to the line of scrimmage. But because he just had tunnel vision at that point, it was just like, oh, you're toast. There's no chance you're getting this.
But I do think on that play, Brian Thomas Jr., I think, is running a sluggo on 4th and 6 that just is not working at all. It's like the slowest sluggo I think I've ever seen. And I don't know if that's because of the rain conditions or like the weather, but the Brian Thomas Jr. thing is just become awful at this point. Like it's fascinating like how quickly like he has gone from rising star to can't catch a football.
And Mitchell.
It's so weird. It's just a weird thing. Like there was late in the game, it's 2nd down, and Trevor Lawrence throws a catchable pass to Brian Thomas Jr. on the sidelines, and he slows down and misjudges the ball, and it just glances off his fingertips. What do you do? And then the next play, Parker Washington, who is their best receiver when it comes to reliability, drops a dig in the middle of the field, and you have to go punt. That feels like the Jaguars right now, along with they haven't picked up a stunt in 2 weeks. That's an issue. The communication is an issue up front. Those feel like those things feel like they're going to continue for the Jaguars offense. The inability to protect against stunts and pass rush games, and the fact that nobody can catch a football.
Jags far and away your NFL leaders in drops. Well over 10% drop rate on the season from those Jags receivers. Leading the league drops, leading the league in penalties is not a recipe for success in the NFL. Yeah, they go 3 of 15 on 3rd down, 2 of 6 on 4th down. That's how you outgain someone by 80 yards and get blown out. All right, let's get to the Commanders at Cowboys. Speaking of blowouts, Cowboys 44-22. Offense just explodes. Now this one, I think we kind of said it in the pre-show. We're like, hey, if CD goes, the Cowboys offense is going to be tough to stop. But also, not only did CD go here, we didn't have Terry McLaurin or Deebo Samuel. So it kind of flipped the script. It was the Cowboys have everyone, the Commanders have no one, and then not only they have no one, Jane Daniels got hurt in this game, hamstring injury, TBD on how long it will be, but they've been conservative with him with good reason. My number from this one, though, 666. That's the days between Deron Bland's last pick 6 and this one. Mr. Pick 6 gets his 6th pick 6 of his career, 666 days after his last one. I don't want to suggest anything, but it's a little things are lining up. I don't know what Deron Bland did to make it as a, former, was he UDFA or late round pick out of Fresno State?
He was a late round pick, yeah.
That's guy's been living right. But the Cowboys in this one, their offense is just such a house. It's such a house. It sucks that they're like have no defense and that they're going to be ultimately done in by that. But this team is so much fun offensively.
When the run game works the way it did against the Commanders, and you also have the problem of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, who CeeDee was incredible against the Commanders. The touchdown he had where Dak is throwing him like over the middle against Tampa 2 is beautiful. Like that was like this game is going to get out of hand if Washington cannot score, because that's the kind of throw that Dak Prescott's making this season. I said Dak Prescott's playing football just as good as some of the elite quarterbacks that we think of this year, because he is so impressive downfield with timing, with accuracy. Like he is quarterback teach tape. When it comes to pocket passing and pocket movement, he is so impressive throwing the ball right now. And then like there's George Pickens had a beautiful catch over the shoulder. Like Dak puts it in the bucket, but he's also staring into the eye of Sauron because the sun came out in this game. That's what I thought was funny about the Deron Bland pick 6 is he's running into the sun to go make this play. And I said Marcus Mariota got caught in a solar flare, which is why he threw the ball out there and just thought somebody would come and get it. So like I understand, but I am really close to calling this Commander season a wash, because if Jaden is hurt for any extended period of time, you're really, really worried about how sustainable this whole thing is, especially because if Jaden misses any extended point before the bye week in week 12, they have Kansas City, Seattle, Detroit, and Miami. Like, you could find yourself without Jaden Daniels for the next 4 games. They're 3-4 right now. You could end up 4-7 at the bye week, going and facing Denver, Minnesota, New York, Philly, Dallas, Philly to end the season. It's getting really close to just calling this season like, hey, we're going to have to punt on this one. And it sucks because Jaden Daniels has been good, very good when he's played. They just don't have a defense that can stop anybody at this point.
Yeah, I don't see how it turns around, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Their schedule is too tough. If Jaden Daniels, if it's like I said, like a month, if it's a month, that's it. That you're not beating the Chiefs, Seahawks, Lions with Marcus Mariota, and this is the way this defense is playing. You're just not, and it's not to say that you're ruining Jaden Daniels or that they can't do anything in the future. You just didn't do enough this offseason. You're going to have more cap space. You're going to have more plays to make. You just didn't do enough specifically on the defensive side of the ball. The Marshawn Lattimore trade is looking worse by the
disaster.
Day. I mean, the fact that he gave up a 3rd rounder for a guy who you almost don't even want to be out there at this point. Like, he gave up the most yards for this team yet again. He cannot, you expect him to handle number ones. They're scheming like he can handle number ones. At no point this season has he been able to handle number ones. It's just they have a lot of problems there defensively that it's not just one guy. They are a handful of pieces away. I feel better about the Cowboys. If I had to pick one of these 2 teams, I'd pick the Cowboys all day, every day to make the playoffs before the Commanders at this point in time.
And I think it's not only the fact that they didn't do enough this offseason. It's the fact that you're leaning on aging guys to go and be your aces, to be your needle movers defensively. Marshawn Lattimore has been awful. Von Miller has basically been like, I forgot that Von Miller was on the Commanders before they showed him. I was like, oh, wow. Like I didn't know we had gotten to that point in Von Miller's career. Bobby Wagner has not been good in coverage. So with the way that they drafted, by getting some of the younger guys later on, you were hoping that your veterans would lead you this season. And they have not been good enough on that side of the ball. And then combine that offensively with nobody. The only game they played, the only game that they had Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels, and Deebo Samuel all healthy together, I think was it week 1 where they were all healthy? Or have they just not had a game where all of them were on the field at the same time. Was it
week 2, week 1 and 2? They had
week 1 and 2 were the only games that they had everybody healthy. And from that point, it's just kind of a snake bitten season. So it sucks because you can say this Commanders offense is very talented. They have very good players. But the fact that your stars have not played all together, and the fact that your defense is one of the worst in the league, I really struggle, especially if Jaden misses extended period of time. I don't think this team is going to make it very far.
And with the Jaden injury, this is now, I believe, his 4th in the NFL that's likely going to cause him to miss some period of time. That was always the worry in my eyes, is that this guy, unbelievably talented. His mom even said on Twitter, stop calling him RG3, which he's not that. He's definitely just a much better player than RG3. However, the frame and his play style was always worrisome because he was not Lamar Jackson from a contact avoidance standpoint. Lamar, they've obviously been compared as athletes, but Lamar is one of the best I've ever seen at not taking hits, not taking direct shots, avoiding that whenever possible. Jaden's not quite that guy. Jaden takes a little bit more contact. He is a little bit more risk averse, or risk, the opposite of that. He'll take on a little more risk.
He's a little bit of Wile E. Coyote.
Yes. And that's just tough to sustain when you are a string being framed the way he is. And now he's, again, missing his 4th injury that's causing him to miss time in the NFL in just a season and a half. So obviously concerning there. Last thing here, though, just Brandon Aubrey. Got to give a shout out. 5th 60-plus yard field goal. The guy is an absolute cheat code. He put a 61-yarder into the net. I don't know if I've ever seen a 61-yarder go into the net. The thing was absolutely bounced. Guy has a cannon, and in today's NFL, with how juiced the ball is and where everyone's starting, that's like a legit weapon. Having a guy like that is massive for an offense.
He's, that scene in Avengers where Thanos is like, "I'm inevitable."
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Aubrey is inevitable. There's only 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, Brandon Aubrey. I think that, especially with the way that the Cowboys play defense, you're going to keep playing shootouts. You got to win in the margins a little bit. They have the biggest margin extender in the NFL just off of virtue of you only have to cross midfield. You enter Brandon Aubrey's range.
That stripe they put on, literally just throw it down the 50. You can even back it up a few yards. If it's the end of the game, I'm sure they would take him out to 71, 72 and not bat an eye, given how he's performed and given where his leg looks like he can go. All right. Panthers, Jets. Panthers win 13-6, covers 1.5-point favorites. Under hits here bigly. What's your number from this one?
My number is 6. That's how many sacks the Panthers had in this game. It's just awful right now for the Jets. It's just awful vibes. Awful in every aspect of it. You paid $40 million to Justin Fields. I don't know if he got hurt or if he got benched, but the vibes are just horrendous for that team right now. But for the Panthers, you're getting some really good play from your defense. And I know, again, it's the Jets, but they're continuing to stack games on the defensive line. And I think that's important for that group, especially how young some of their core players, some of their aces are. Derek Brown looks fully back.
Yeah.
He had 2 sacks in this game, was dominant in the run game. Nick Scorton, again, I continue to say, really good player. Really just high effort, quality football player. Umar Mielen had half a sack. I thought Trevon Moehrig had some really cool plays by the line of scrimmage. I think he's added a lot to their defense in terms of just some sure tackling from that safety spot who can come up in Evero's defense when they play as much quarters as they do, as much light boxes as they do. He can play really good coming up into the box. And then J.C. Horn just making plays. And whenever there's a big play to be made, J.C. Horn, one-handed interception. Honestly, the one-handed interception wasn't as impressive as his second interception of the day, where he's just in phase the entire time. This route is never open, and he still ends up getting the interception. And I think that's again, the fact that you're getting some really good play from your defense is something that can continue. Hopefully, like it's a good sign for them to get their defense back to where it was, considering how they looked in the first couple of weeks. Offensively, this was rough. You lose Bryce Young with an ankle injury. He gets stepped on, which is never a good sign that he just didn't come back into this game, especially because like the game was never out of hand. Like this wasn't a blowout. Like the score was 13-6. And the fact that Bryce didn't come back into this game, I'm a little worried about the ankle injury. But the Jets defense played good enough to win. Quentin Williams was awesome. They slowed down the run game, but you got enough. You got enough from Xavier Legette, who has put together a couple nice performances. Tedero McMillan is fantastic. But, you're handicapped with an offense like the Jets. You're playing with one hand behind your back. And the Panthers took advantage of a team playing with one hand behind their back.
Yeah, the Justin Fields signing, it's just a disaster. I mean, he's obviously not getting paid franchise quarterback money. We know that. But $20 million is a big chunk of change. $20 million a year is still not inconsequential. That's a high-level starter at tight end, at running back, at safety that obviously this roster could use. There's just no sugarcoating it. This did not work. You're benching him. I don't think he's ever going to get that starting job back. And like I said before last week, I'm like, this is it. That was it. Justin Fields is not a starter in the NFL. I think we can put that to bed. And to, see Jackson Dart playing as well as he is. Even Dylan Gabriel you take right now over anyone in the Jets quarterback room. It's just like the decision to go that route, you just have to question it. It's tough as where the Jets are, and the start of this new era in New York could not be off to worse vibes, as you said. Patriots at Titans, another blowout. Like I said, we won't talk about Titans much the rest of the year, but this was an ugly one from Cam Ward. But on the opposite side, not an ugly one from Drake May. They win 31-13, cover a 7-point favorites, and the over hits there.
So my number for this game was 2. That's how many incompletions Drake May had. He also threw 2 passing touchdowns. I'm running out of words to describe Drake May. Like, he has been incredible this season. And again, he's so impressive on deep passes. It's the accuracy downfield. It's just like 40-yard handoffs. It's like the ball's coming out of a jugs machine. The end of half touchdown to Kayshon Boutte, who makes a great catch. Again, Kayshon Boutte, serviceable player, quality player at this stage in his career. And I think that's awesome. Beautiful throw. And a way to go out and get the ball if you're Kayshon Boutte. Drake May had a couple nice hole shots to Mac Hollins in this game, which again, whole shot to Mac Hollins. Do we understand what's happening right now with their offense? And I do think that they're doing this in spite of the Titans kind of giving them some problems up front when it comes to pass rush. Jared Wilson, he struggled this season. I think his play strength at guard is just not at the level it's supposed to be. Yeah, he's a center. But you have Garrett Bradbury playing center. So what do you do? You're not going to move him this year, but next year I could see Jared Wilson moving over. But they were able to run the ball in this game. They had some really nice moments on the ground, and that's a really impressive. Able to run the ball, and they're able to be effective running the football, despite still having some kinks to work out. So I'm impressed with how the Patriots still run their offense, and the fact that Drake May is playing darn near MVP caliber football.
Yeah, and it's not just the 2 incompletions. He also ran for 62 yards on 8 carries. A lot of the running games also Drake May's doing it. So like you said, there's not much more you can say. This guy looks like he's going to join. It looks like he's going to join that tier of quarterbacks. The quattro. What do we call 4? It's not trio. Quadrant. The quadrant that is Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. He looks like he's knocking on that door. I mean, truthfully, the guy is knocking on that door. When you factor in the supporting cast that he's working with right now, still playing elite football, he is now, since week 1, 12 of 13 on deep balls. The one that he didn't complete was a 3rd and 27 to Mac Hollins that hit off his hands. That was a gorgeous pass. So he is, from an accuracy perspective, 13 of his last 13 deep balls. That is special stuff. I've never seen in the NFL a streak that good over the course of a season. The only worrisome thing from Drake May is that this is the second time now his head's bounced off the turf. And then I've been like, dude, I think he's out. Or not out, but I think he should come out. The first one was the Steelers game, which I can't believe he didn't. Threw a pick on the next play down at the goal line. This one, they actually took him out, reviewed him. But that's the only worrisome thing right now, if you're watching Drake May's tape, is that he's bounced his head as many times as he's incompleted passes this past week.
Yeah, that's not good. You have to protect your quarterback. You have to get him to be a little safer. Some of that is just football is football, but you got to protect your franchise player at this point. But for the Patriots, looking long term, your next tough game is week 10 against Tampa. They have Cleveland at home, Atlanta at home, on the road against Tampa, at home against New York, at Cincinnati, then at home against the Giants before your bye week. They could push this lead out a little bit. They could really stretch this lead out in the AFC East before they have to play Buffalo again in week 15, which now looks like one of the most important games of the year in terms of pecking order in the AFC. I'm not saying this to say this team is going to magically become something in the AFC this year, but with the way that the rest of the conference looks, we could be looking at a home field advantage New England Patriots.
That was always why I picked up the playoffs, because they had such an easy schedule, and it looked easy then. It looks even easier now because the division they were playing, the AFC North, has fallen completely off the cliff. That was the hard part of their schedule was, maybe the Browns will be better this year. The Bengals, obviously, with Joe Burrow, and the Ravens. No, those games actually might be very winnable. So not a lot of speed bumps on their path going forward. And yeah, this Patriots team, not only they're making the playoffs, like you said, they could be a real factor for that 1 seed in time. Now let's get to the Dolphins at Browns, because we have to. Browns win 31-6, contractually obligated. 2.5-point favorites. They cover that. Obviously, the under hits there, 39.5. My number from this game, 6. That's how many Tua interceptions we've seen in the last 2 games. This is it. This feels like we're obviously recording this Monday morning. It's 9:24 Eastern time. If we aren't talking about Mike McDaniels being gone by tomorrow's show, I will just be surprised, because it's just sad at this point.
That was the most juiceless game, the most energyless game.
The rain and weather didn't help.
The weather didn't help, but the Dolphins just looked like they didn't want to be out there. They didn't look like they wanted to go play football. And the thing with Tua, and I think they actually spoke about this in the preseason, was Tua's interceptions all come in bunches and all come at the worst times possible. He's never just throwing 1 interception. It's always 3. It's always 2. It's always it's just bunches. But the worst thing about this is he's not seeing the field. He's not seeing the field. And the fact that you combine that with his arm strength that isn't there, you're borderline unplayable at this point right now. That's an issue for Tua and the Dolphins, is the fact that Tua's arm strength and Tua's decision making isn't helping to replace the gap that he has to replace when it comes to arm strength. Because you can get away with making dumb decisions if your arm is good. We've seen that happen a lot. But you can't get away with dumb decisions if you're also late on field outs or underthrowing out routes to the field. That was the Tyson Campbell pick 6. The ball's it's a drop pass technically, but it's late and behind his receiver. There's nothing you can do about that. So you can't go into 2026 with Tua as your starter. But I would be surprised if Mike McDaniel, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike McDaniel gets fired today.
Here's the thing, though. You can't trade Tua. No one wants Tua. No one's going to take that contract. And if you cut him, you're actually losing cap space. So you're in this horrendous situation where basically you can't get a good head coaching candidate because every head coach candidate knows he's going to have to work with Tua. And once again, we've seen Tua just completely unable to play in elements. This was another, it wasn't cold, but it was windy and rainy and disaster. That's like every single time. So cross off half the teams in the NFL that he just can't play for because they play in either outdoors themselves or in division where you're playing a lot outdoors. And I just don't see how this ends well for them for 2 to 3 more years because of that. Because again, you can't get out from under the contract. The only way you could get some cap savings next year is if you trade him. No one's going to go trade for him. Like I said, maybe Arizona is the one team who you just do a Kyler for Tua straight up swap. It's like your only path to success here, but because they play in a division where it's not as bad, but I don't think this is just not a good situation to be in all around because McDaniel's going to be gone, but McDaniel's probably the best guy to get the most out of Tua. So Tua's like automatically going to take even a step back from where he is because you're probably not going to scheme up as good around him. I don't know. There's just too much bad going on. I feel for Dolphins fans. You're in one of probably the 3 worst situations going forward in the NFL.
I think this is a scenario where Tua's just a very expensive backup for a couple of years, a la like
the Alex Smith injury, or
like that. It's one of those scenarios where you got to ride it out, but he's not playing. You can't go into 2026 with Tua as your starter. That is waving the white flag before the season even starts.
I think this is a team that drafts one. I think you just draft one, you keep 2 on the roster. It's a competition, whatever, but that's just where this has to go because it's unfortunately, and again, I think we get a house cleaning. I think Chris Greer's gone too. And so you get a new GM, you get a new head coach, you say you get to pick out your guy, and then you say like, hey, we're giving you 3 years because we know it could get ugly before it's not 3 years. You probably should give him more than that, but like we know it's going to be ugly before it gets good. But that lets you develop that guy. Maybe Tua is your starter, but he's developing on the bench, and that lets you really go to work, cutting dead weight on this roster, building from the bottom up, knowing that you're going to be drafting highly for a couple of years in a row. Outside of that, though, I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. It's just tough. All right, last game here. And it was, the score may not quite reflect it, but it was the biggest blowout of the season. Chiefs win 31-0. The only reason it wasn't more of a blowout is because basically this game ended after 3 quarters. The Chiefs' first 5 drives, they go touchdown, 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 field goal, and then Patrick Mahomes came out the game.
My big number in this game, there are so many numbers I could have chosen, but my big number is 10 targets on 16 routes for Rashee Rice.
Insane.
The first thing I wrote down in my notes was the Death Star is fully operational. Like they got it. They got their guy back. And the thing that really stands out is how Rashee Rice scored his 2 touchdowns. First, jet sweep in the red zone. That's like, you want to get the ball in his hands because he's so strong and so big after the catch. Second, goal line fade. Again, you're just making this offense so much more efficient in short to intermediate ranges and in the red zone. They are doing so much cool stuff with Rashee Rice. And the fact that he only ran 16 routes, you got your full complement of Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rice back, and all of the levels just opened up for this offense. They were killing the Raiders with over routes in this game where like none of their linebackers were carrying an over route at all. And it just got out of hand quickly. The other number here is the Raiders ran 30 plays in this game.
30 plays.
For context, Justin Herbert against the Colts was pressured 36 times. The Raiders ran 30 plays in this game. What happened? Like, I know, like, it's like what happened, but like, Pete Carroll's probably one and done at this point. Like, this team is so devoid of life, and it sucks because Pete Carroll is a historic Hall of Fame caliber head coach, but this is a rough way to go out. It's clear that this team just has no juice. The energy is gone from like the first couple of weeks, but the story of this game is just the Chiefs look like they are fully back offensively, which is why you really want to say, like, yeah, when you're talking about best teams in the NFL, best team in the AFC, it's still the Chiefs, even though they have 3 losses, because now everybody's back. I do got to shout out Brashard Smith, a.k.a. Gen Alpha, Jarrett McKinnon, because he just does everything Jarrett McKinnon does.
Yep.
Like, every time he's in the game, he's catching the ball, and I think that adds so much more of an element after the catch to this team where they are so tough to tackle. They're so tough to tackle, and it's going to give a lot of teams problems come playoff time.
Yeah, the Chiefs look like an absolute house. There were so many insane stats from this game. The 30 plays one is probably the most insane because I don't think people understand. That's like half as many plays as your normal game. Those were, so back when I used to work at PFF, we used to have to, you would just get assigned a game to grade or to chart. And I used to hate getting Big 12 games when we were doing college because Big 12 back at that point, this was like mid 2010s. Everyone was running, like you would get Baylor and TCU playing head to head, going both no huddle. They'd run up 100 plays each game. Like I remember there was that one TCU Baylor game that was like the insane game. I think it was Trayvon Boykin was quarterback versus, gosh, who was the other one for Baylor, where it was 250 plays. I had to grade 250 plays in a game. And you would love the ones where it was like 40, like you get a run heavy team. Those were the ones you loved. So a game where you saw 30, when you opened up the tool and saw only 30 at the top, you were like, hell yes. It's just, those were the ones you lived for. But you never, like you said, you never saw 30. That's unbelievable. The other unbelievable stat, Geno Smith, 67 passing yards in this game, 66 of which came after the catch. Hidden. 99% of his passing yards were after the catch. In a horrible passing performance, there was just nothing good about it. I mean, like truly the most dominant, one-sided, lopsided game you could possibly fathom that I've ever seen in the NFL. And again, the only reason it was only 31-0 is because the Chiefs held the ball for so long. They dominated the game so much that the clock just ran out. Like there just wasn't enough time for this game to get to 100-0. I'm sure if the Chiefs wanted to, they could have. It just was 42 minutes the Chiefs had the ball for. 42 minutes. The Raiders possessed the ball for 17 minutes. Almost a full, didn't even had the ball for just over a quarter. Just absolutely insane stuff. Yeah, the Chiefs are back. The Chiefs are back, and we're all terrified.
Had 30 first downs. Like, they had 30 first downs in this game. The Raiders had 30 plays just total. It's insane. They're the second team since 1950 to have 30 plays or fewer in a game. And it got to a point where there's I don't know if you saw it, but they get false started on a play in the red zone that is probably going to score, where they have 4 guys in like 4-point stances in the backfield. And I think one of them is Gardner Minshew. I got to go see if I can find it. It is just the most we don't respect you at all type of play from the Chiefs. It would have scored. Rashee Rice was walking into the end zone if it wasn't a false start. It always happens against the Raiders. The ring around the rosy stuff, the Chiefs always just pull out the, hey man, this is the back of the playbook. We didn't know if we're ever going to get a chance to run this one again this season. So let's see if it'll work. That you always
put this in for 10 seconds on a Saturday, and now it's on the field against you guys.
Andy Reid saw this on a 1910 copy of like Yale football and was like, I got exactly the team I'm going to try and run this on.
And it's the Raiders. Oh, brutal. All right. There's your show. Here's a recap. We'll be back tomorrow doing the Monday Night Football doubleheader, a great one we have on tap, as well as our film review, as we always do on Tuesdays. Remember to like, subscribe, follow our new YouTube channel. If you could, help us a lot. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.